Jagadev, and thank you for joining us today. So, how significant was his role in his Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji's interaction with Odisha officials for the state's future? Jagadev, and thank you for joining us today. So, it was profoundly significant when senior officials mediate and meditate under Gurudev's guidance. It's not merely a symbolic act, it initiates an energetic transformation. Odisha is a sacred land of Lord Jagannath, representing universal love and service. Governance here isn't just administration, it's stewardship of a divine heritage. Gurudev's interaction reminded officials that ethics, compassion, and clarity are the pillars of a truly developed Odisha. His meditation guided them beyond stress into inner silence, awakening intuitive intelligence. From that silence arises ethical action, the true foundation of good governance. This moment marked a shift from managing Odisha to serving Odisha as Jagannath's own domain. Now, why do government executives need spiritual practices like meditation and Sudarshan Kriya? When governance decisions affect millions, such responsibility brings enormous mental pressure. Meditation and Sudarshan Kriya rejuvenate body, mind, and spirit. They reduce cortisol, enhance focus, and increase empathy. An officer who meditates daily operates from stability, not agitation. Art of Living's government executive program is specifically designed to balance professional efficiency with inner peace. So when prana flows freely, clarity returns. This clarity prevents burnout, corruption, and ego driven conflict. A calm mind can see solutions where stress sees only problems. And Sudarshan Kriya is not luxury, it's a necessity for ethical governance. Now, how does the Shakti Kriya help administrators make balanced decisions? The Shakti Kriya awakens the pranic energy stored within. For an administrator, this translates into vitality and intuitive power. Bureaucratic decisions often require sharp intellect and deep intuition. The Shakti Kriya harmonizes both hemispheres of the brain and brings emotional stability. It burns subtle stress residues and allows spontaneous right action. In Odisha, where development must balance heritage and modernization, such inner strength is vital. Officials practicing Shakti Kriya report increased patience and creativity, qualities needed for visionary governance aligned with Dharma. Now, what role can Padma Sadhana play in enhancing discipline among officers? The Padma Sadhana combines yoga, breath, and meditation in a structured sequence. It restores posture, grace, and centeredness, qualities symbolic of lotus like leadership. When officers practice Padma Sadhana before beginning their day, they experience calm alertness. This inner discipline reflects in the outer conduct, punctuality, empathy, and fairness. In Art of Wings' executive programs, the Padma Sadhana prepares the mind to remain unshaken amidst pressure. For Odisha officials managing floods, infrastructure, and welfare projects, this sadhana builds resilience and compassion, the twin petals of ideal service. Now, how can the Trikalsandhya and Gayatri Japa be integrated into an officer's daily routine? Jagat Trikalsandhya, the thrice daily remembrance of the divine, brings sacred rhythm to modern life, and combined with Gayatri Japa, it infuses divine brilliance into intellect. Even 5 minutes of chanting morning, noon, and evening can recharge the subtle body and elevate consciousness. For officers managing state responsibilities, this practice transforms routine work into sacred offering or yagya. As Gurudev often says, when work becomes worship, life becomes celebration. Odysseus' governance, when guided by such rhythm, can reflect Jagannath's compassion in policy and execution alike. In what way can the teachings of the Srisha University contribute to ethical governance? The Srisha University in Cuttack stands as a lighthouse of integrative education, blending modern management, Vedic wisdom, and human values. Officials can collaborate with SSU to receive training on ethical leadership, conflict resolution, and spiritual intelligence. Courses like ethics and governance and mind management through meditation can be incorporated into IAS, IPS, and OAS training. The university's culture promotes sustainable development rooted in compassion. When decision makers align with such values, governance transcends politics. It becomes a nation building in its true essence. Now, what does the Vedic Dhamma supports, and how does the Vedic Dhamma support spiritual governance in Odisha? That the Vedic Dhamma preserves ancient rituals, pujas, and homas that purify collective consciousness. When officers participate in Agni Karyam, the Bhojanam Vidhi, or the Rudra or the Vishnu homas, the energy field of the workplace becomes sattvic. This raises ethical awareness naturally. Sanskrit scholars also advise on scriptural principles applicable to administration, such as fairness or nyaya, and self-restraint or dhamma, and seva or selfless service. These rituals harmonize cosmic forces that influence society. Spiritual governance is not about religion, it's about raising consciousness in the field of policy and service. Now, what is the link between the Jagannath consciousness and the public service? The Lord Jagannath symbolizes inclusivity. He accepts everyone equally. This very essence of equality and universality is the foundation of good governance. Officials serving Odisha are, in fact, custodians of Jagannath consciousness. When they act selflessly without ego or bias, they mirror his compassion. Gurudev's teachings remind us that the real seva begins when there is no feeling of I am doing. Officials who meditate and act in Jagannath's spirit create policies that uplift every section of society, not just in Odisha but across India. Now, how do the pujas and homas purify the collective atmosphere of governance? The rituals are energy technologies of consciousness. Fire ceremonies like Rudra Homa or Navagraha Homa neutralize unseen negativities and promote a collective harmony. When conducted with Vedic precision, they raise vibrations of truth and clarity. For government offices, such ceremonies bring lightness, teamwork, and trust. Gurudev often says, this, as you clean the body and home, you must also clean your mind and environment. Homas purify subtle energies that influence thought and emotion. In Odisha, the land of ancient temples and sacred rivers, these rituals naturally align officials with divine guidance. How can officials balance administrative responsibility with their personal well being? By establishing a daily sadhana, a short morning routine of pranayama, sudarshan kriya, meditation, and gratitude. Journaling creates internal order even amidst a hectic schedule. 5 minutes of silence reconnects one with purpose. The Art of Living programs teach stress management tools that sustain vitality. Gurudev's wisdom emphasizes balance, work like a king, rest like a sage. Odisha's officials serving under immense expectations can only give their best when they themselves are rested, centered, and joyful. True leadership begins from within. Now, how can officials overcome decision fatigue through meditation? The decision fatigue occurs when constant choices drain mental energy. Meditation reverses that depletion when officials close their eyes and go inward. Prana replenishes the brain and nervous system. Gurudev's guided meditations bring awareness from the intellect to pure consciousness, where intuition blossoms. From that space, decisions become spontaneous and precise. Instead of overthinking, officials feel guided by inner clarity. This reduces stress related errors and enhances productivity. Many IAS officers trained in art of living report in the government executive program that after meditation, files move faster and interpersonal conflicts drop dramatically. Silence is not inaction, it's the source of all right action. Now, what's the role of Seva or selfless service in transforming governance? The Seva converts authority into humility. When power is seen as responsibility to serve, governance becomes sacred. In the art of living, Seva is not charity, it's a gratitude in action. Officers practicing Seva through rural upliftment, environmental projects, or education initiatives work without ego. Gurudev often reminds us that Seva cleanses the mind and expands the heart. Odisha's officials can integrate Seva in policy. Every departmental act can be an offering to Jagannath. The more selfless the intention, the more efficient the execution. Now, how can the officials maintain ethical integrity and amidst political pressure? Ethics comes from strength, not from fear. When one's mind is rooted in meditation, courage arises naturally. Gurudev teaches that truth doesn't need defense, it radiates power. Officials trained in Art of Living's ethics and governance modules learn to remain centered, transparent, and fearless even under pressure. The guide-driven trust in this Viveka or discrimination and dispassion preventing corruption. In Odysseus' context, ethical officers become the pillars of Jagannath Dharma. Serving the people without bias or greed, meditation transforms morality into lived integrity. Now, how does the pranayama support emotional resilience in leadership? The breath is the link and the bridge between the emotion and reason. When breath becomes shallow, anger and anxiety arise. When it is deep and rhythmic, stability returns through Bhastrika and Nadi Shodhan Pranayama. Officials can regulate emotions during crisis. These techniques oxygenate the brain and calm the amygdala, reducing impulsive reactions. A leader with mastery over breath commands natural respect. Gurudev often says, your breath belongs to you, master it, and the world listens. Emotional intelligence born of pranayama is a leadership asset far greater than technical skill. Now, Jagadav, can you explain how Agni Karam and Bhojanam Vidhi can refine consciousness in public offices? Now, the Agni Karam, the act of maintaining a small sacred flame and offering prayers before beginning work, creates a sattvic vibration. It reminds the mind that all work is divine service. The Bhojanam Vidhi, the conscious way of eating, cultivates gratitude and mindfulness. When officials observe such rituals, it elevates office culture from mechanical to meaningful. Even small symbolic offerings before a day's work can change the energy of an entire department. As the Vedas say, the yajnena yagnam ayan jata deva. True offering the world is sustained. Now, how can the officials integrate Gurudev's wisdom books into daily reflection? The Gurudev's books like Celebrating Silence and Intimate Note to the Sincere Seeker and Wisdom for the New Millennium are daily companions for self correction. Reading one page each morning aligns thought with the higher ideals. Officers can also hold wisdom circles once a week where passages are read and discussed in departments. Such a dialogue elevates workplace energy. These writings remind administrators to remain light yet responsible. When wisdom enters policy making, compassion and practicality merge. Governance thus then becomes a living embodiment of dharma. Now, what is the importance of silence retreats for senior officials? The silence retreats are transformational. In just 3 to 5 days of silence, accumulated stress melts away and intuition strengthens. For senior officials burdened by constant communication, silence is not withdrawal, it's a rejuvenation. Gurudev's Art of Living Silence course is designed to deepen meditation and expand awareness. Many administrators who attend such retreats return with renewed creativity and decisiveness. In Odysseus' governance ecosystem, a few days of silence could yield months of clarity. When mind chatters stops, vision emerges. Now, how does the ancient Vedic wisdom align with modern administrative ethics? Jagadish, the Vedas describe the ideal ruler as Radharishi, one who rules with the wisdom of a sage and efficiency of a king. Modern administration seeks the same balance, competence with compassion. The Vedic Ramsan offers insights from scriptures like Arthashastra and Manusmriti that emphasize justice, transparency, and welfare. When combined with the Gurudev's spiritual guidance, this becomes applied Vedic governance. The two systems, ancient and modern, are not contradictory but complementary. Odisha can pioneer this model where spirituality feels administrative excellence. Now, how can stress management programs improve public service delivery? Now, when officers are mentally and emotionally healthy, their decision making sharpens. The Art of Living Government Executive Program focuses on breathing, meditation, and team harmony. After such training, officials report reduced absenteeism, higher motivation, and better coordination among departments. Stress free officers are more compassionate to citizens and less likely to engage in bureaucratic delay. Odysseus' dream of a developed ethical state can only be realized when its a human capital, its administrators are peaceful from within. A calm officer is a creative officer. Now, what role does devotion play in sustaining the ethical leadership? If the devotion transforms the work into worship, when officers remember that every signature affects lives, reverence naturally arises. Bhakti doesn't mean weakness, it gives inner strength. The presence of Lord Jagannath in Puri constantly reminds Odisha that God's eyes watch over every action. Gurudev teaches that devotion cleanses ambition and ego. Another officer with devotion becomes fearless, compassionate, and transparent. Such leadership doesn't depend on external enforcement; it flows from conscience. Devotion ensures that the dharmic flame within never dims, even amidst administrative storms. Now, how can the officials cultivate compassion while maintaining firmness in governance? Jagadev, compassion and firmness are not opposites, they are complementary. His Holiness Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankarji teaches that compassion gives depth to discipline and firmness gives structure to compassion. An officer who meditates daily becomes sensitive yet strong. When the mind is calm, empathy arises naturally but not at the cost of justice. Meditation helps in separating emotion from wisdom. Thus, policies can be both people friendly and principled. Odisha, being a land of saints and kings, needs administrators who govern with the heart of a monk and the mind of a strategist. That's the true model of Rajarishi Rajniti. How does spirituality strengthen teamwork in government departments? Jagadev, most conflicts in administration arise from ego and miscommunication. Art of Living's group meditation and Sudarshan Kriya sessions dissolve these invisible barriers. When officials meditate together, collective consciousness harmonizes, mutual respect grows, gossip reduces, and decisions flow smoothly. Gurdev's leadership workshops emphasize listening, empathy, and appreciation. The Vedic Samsthan adds rituals like the Sankalpa Homa or Ganapati Puja before new projects, invoking unity. A department that prays and breathes together works together. The spiritual alignment builds genuine teamwork beyond bureaucratic hierarchy. Now, how can ethical governance be taught as a living practice rather than theory? Jagadav, ethics cannot be enforced, it must be experienced through self awareness practices. One realizes the peace that comes from honesty and the pain that follows deceit. Gurudev's program transforms ethics into spontaneous behavior, not compliance. When the mind is pure, ethical choices become natural. The Vedic Dharmasana supports this by reviving the ancient practice of Sankalpa, the conscious intention before every task. If each officer begins the day with the vow, may my actions benefit the people of Odisha, every policy gains a moral compass. Ethics becomes a living vibration, not a textbook rule. How can ancient Odisha's spiritual heritage inspire modern development models? Development models. Odisha has been home to sages, temples, and maritime glory. The Jagannath culture of inclusiveness, the Konark's temples' as architectural precision, and the Buddhist heritage of compassion all embody integrated progress. Gurudev's vision aligns perfectly development that sustains both nature and culture. Srish University is already demonstrating this through eco-friendly campuses and value-based education. By combining technological innovation with spiritual wisdom, Odisha can lead India as a model of holistic growth, where the GDP, the gross domestic product, meets the GHP, the gross happiness product. Now, what is the significance of yajna and collective prayer in administration? The yajna symbolizes selflessness, offering one's abilities for collective welfare. When officials gather for collective meditation or homa, it's a modern yajna. It purifies not only air but also intention. Gurudev emphasizes that energy follows intention. Therefore, the pure sankalpa of public servants can create a powerful ripple across the state. Collective prayers held by Vedic Samsthan invoking divine blessings for peace, prosperity, and justice strengthen the moral fabric of governance. Yajna transforms administration from ego driven to service driven governance. Now, how can the officers practice mindfulness in routine government work? There, the mindfulness means being fully present in each moment, reading files, listening to citizens, signing papers, all with awareness. Simple breathing techniques before meetings center the mind. Gurudev's guidance is don't be a slave to your thoughts, become the master of your mind. When awareness replaces automation, work qualities improves and stress reduces. Even small tasks like drinking water or typing a letter can be done mindfully. Mindfulness brings grace to the mundane and divinity to duty. Odysseus' officials can thus turn governance into meditation in action. Now, how can officials connect Jagannath consciousness with modern administrative ethics? There, the Lord Jagannath's form embodies universality, eyes that see all, arms that embrace all, and a smile that welcomes all. This symbolism is deeply ethical, equality, transparency, and compassion. When officers remember Jagannath before decision making, it invokes divine accountability, acting as if the Lord Himself is witness. Gurudev teaches that such remembrance purifies intent. Jagannath consciousness reminds officials that power is temporary but service is eternal. Governance and becomes an act of devotion ensuring dharmic progress for all citizens. Now, what is the value of simplicity in the lifestyle of senior administrators? Yeah, the simplicity brings clarity. Gurudev often says the more simple you are, the more powerful you become. When officers live simply, eating sattvic food, maintaining balance, avoiding excess, their minds remain light. Such simplicity builds credibility and trust among citizens. The Vedic Sanstan's teachings or Ahara Niyama or right diet and Aparigraha or non-hoarding guide leaders to live with dignity, not luxury. Odysseus' officials inspired by Gurudev can set an example of purity in public life. Simplicity is the highest sophistication in governance. Now, how can stress be transformed into motivation through spiritual practices? The stress is not always an enemy, it's a mismanaged energy. When transformed through breathwork and meditation, that same energy becomes enthusiasm. The Sudarshan Kriya balances the stress hormones, improving emotional regulation. After regular practice, the officers experience energy instead of exhaustion. Gurudev calls this a shift from pressure to purpose. Odysseus' officers dealing with natural disasters or administrative bottlenecks can harness this spiritual energy to stay calm yet dynamic. Stress becomes fuels for service when managed through yogic wisdom. Now, how do the homas and the pujas influence public welfare projects? Every project carries the subtle vibrations of those who conceive it. When initiated with sacred rituals like the Ganapati Homa or the Navagraha Shanti, obstacles reduce and synchronicities increase. The Vedic Dhammasana performs such rituals invoking divine blessings before key administrative initiatives. Gurudev emphasizes that energy precedes the matter. When the unseen energies are aligned, visible success follows. The pujas and the homas are not superstition but spiritual project management tools. In Odisha, where divinity permeates life, combining puja with planning ensures both success and sanctity in public service. Now, how can the meditation enhance creativity in policy making? There, the meditation opens the intuitive dimension of the mind, where original ideas arise effortlessly. A calm mind can perceive patterns that logic alone cannot. Gurudev often says intuition is the mother of innovation. When officers meditate regularly, new solutions to old problems appear naturally. The clutter of over-analysis disappears, leaving room for clarity and creativity. Whether designing welfare schemes or implementing digital governance, a meditative officer approaches challenges with freshness and joy. Odisha, a state rooted in art and spirituality, can thus blend ancient inspiration with modern innovation through meditative intelligence. Now, how can the ancient Vedic education principles guide today's administrative training? Their ancient gurukuls trained students not merely in knowledge but in conduct, discipline, and self awareness. The Vedic Dhammasana revives the spirit through its programs emphasizing brahmacharya, satyam, and seva. In modern administration, similar principles can be adopted, training officers in stress management, compassion, and mindful decision making. The Shishi University already integrates such modules into its leadership programs. When officials train like rishis, disciplined, focused, and humble, governance becomes a noble art rather than a stressful duty. The Gurukul spirit must return to public administration. Now, how does the Art of Living Says government executive program differ from ordinary leadership training? Traditional leadership programs emphasize skill. The Art of Living programs emphasize state of mind. Skills without balance lead to burnout. The government executive program combines the Sudarshan Kriya, meditation, team building exercises, and ethical reflection. It helps officers rediscover joy in work and equanimity in stress. It's not just management, it's a mind management. In Odisha, several bureaucrats who attended such programs reported enhanced productivity and better emotional harmony in departments. The program builds leaders who lead with awareness, not anxiety. Now, how can the spiritual strength help officials face public criticism? Yeah, the criticism is inevitable in public life, but how one handles it reveals maturity. Meditation brings inner stability, so outer turbulence doesn't disturb peace. Gurudev teaches that if one is honest and sincere, criticism becomes a teacher, not a threat. Spirituality builds a self confidence that is rooted in truth, not approval. The Vedic Dhammasana reminds us of Shama or forgiveness and Sahishnata or tolerance, virtues essential for leaders. When an officer lives by dharma, the public opinion cannot shake inner conviction. The calmness under criticism is a sign of real strength. How can daily chanting uplift the collective vibration of governance officers? The sound carries a subtle energy. Chanting mantras like Om Namah Shivaya or Gayatri Mantra purifies the mental atmosphere and raises positivity. Offices where employees begin the day with a brief chant experience greater harmony. Gurudev explains that sound is energy and energy creates impact. Chanting aligns body, breath, and intellect. The Vedic Dhamma system provides trained priests who can teach officials the correct intonation and meaning. Such practices don't impose religion, they cultivate serenity into cooperation. When vibration is high, corruption cannot coexist. Now, how can the Odysseus officers promote sustainable development through spiritual awareness? The sustainability isn't just an environmental concern, it's a spiritual discipline of balance and respect. Gurudev's Project Green Earth and Shri Shri Natural Farming show how spirituality guides ecology. When officials view the government and the environment as divine, policy is naturally aligned with protection or exploitation. Odysseus' forests, rivers, and temples are sacred ecosystems. With meditation and compassion, administrators will act as guardians, not consumers. Spiritual awareness ensures that progress doesn't come at the cost of peace or nature's grace. Now, how can women officers benefit from the art of living and the Vedic themselves and practices? The women officers carry both professional and emotional responsibilities. Gurudev's programs like the Nari Shakti and meditation for women leaders empower them to balance strength and with the sensitivity. Practices like the Shakti Kriya and the Padma Sadhana enhance vitality and emotional resilience. The Vedic stances worship of Devi through Lalita Sahasranama and Durga Homa strengthens inner confidence and grace. When women officers embrace spiritual power, they bring intuitive intelligence and compassion into governance, embodying the spirit of Shakti in public service. Now, how can the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita guide officials in conflict management? The Gita is a timeless manual for leadership under pressure. Lord Krishna's advice to Arjuna mirror an officer's dilemma, duty versus emotion. Gurudev's commentary on the Gita simplifies these principles. Act without attachment, lead with clarity, and see challenges as opportunities for growth. The Vedic Son often conducts the Gita Gyan Yagyas for administrators, helping them apply this wisdom in daily decision making. The Gita transforms crisis into clarity, teaching that action rooted in dharma never brings regret. Now, how do regular homas protect officials from negative influences? The homas are not superstition, they are science of sound, fire, and intention. When performed correctly, they purify subtle vibrations and invoke divine blessings. Negative energies like envy, conflict, or lethargy dissolve in the purifying flame. For administrators constantly surrounded by pressure and public scrutiny, such rituals offer energetic shielding. Gurudev often says, the unseen world governs the seen. Vedic circumstances trained acharyas perform the homa specifically for peace, clarity, and collective prosperity. A sattvic environment helps good people thrive and negativity fade away. Now, how can the officers ensure that development projects respect Odisha's spiritual geography? The Odisha's landscape is sacred from Puri to Konark to Chilika. Each site vibrates with divine energy. Development must therefore be harmonious, not disruptive. The Vedic Dhamsan helps conduct the Bhumi Puja before major projects, seeking nature's permission and blessings. Gurudev advocates the spiritual ecology, building with reverence, roads, bridges, and industries can coexist with temples and forests if consciousness guides planning. When development honors divinity, the prosperity follows naturally. Odysseus' officials have a sacred duty to preserve this dharmic geography while advancing progress. Now, how does the collective meditation among Odisha officials enhance coordination and empathy in governance? Jagdeep, when government officials meditate together, something remarkable happens. A deep collective coherence emerges. Meditation quiets the chatter of the mind, reduces ego conflicts, and fosters mutual understanding. When such harmony prevails among senior administrators, decisions become more inclusive and empathetic. His Holiness Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankarji has often said that meditation transforms group consciousness. Odisha being the land of Jagannath, the Lord of the universe, holds a special vibration of unity. Collective meditation in such sacred land amplifies its energy manifold. Officials who meditate together learn to listen deeply, not just to citizens but also to their inner conscience. In times of administrative pressure, instead of reacting impulsively, they respond wisely. Moreover, collective meditation creates a field of positivity that subtly influences the entire ecosystem from grassroots workers to top bureaucrats. This coherence enhances coordination across departments and builds trust, which is essential for transparent and ethical governance. Now, how can the Vedic circumstances, homas, and pujas be integrated into state level programs for collective welfare? Rather, the Vedic Dhammasasana organizes homas and pujas not merely as religious rituals, but as powerful energy processes that purify the environment and collective consciousness. For Odisha, where spiritual heritage is inseparable from public life, these can beautifully complement state welfare initiatives. For instance, performing the Rudra Homa or the Vishnu Sahasranama Parayana during major government milestones invokes blessings for prosperity, peace, and ecological balance. Agni is considered the ultimate purifier, and when offerings are made with intention for the state's welfare, subtle transformations occur, negativity reduces, and decision making becomes clear and righteous. Such initiatives can be held at sacred venues like the Jagannath Temple premises, Sri Sri University, or government complexes. These ceremonies remind administrators of dharmic principles of honesty, compassion, and duty, aligning their actions with the higher purpose. When Vedic Dhammasana collaborates with Art of Living for such programs, it bridges governance and spirituality, creating an environment where welfare policies are inspired by sacred intention, not political compulsion. Now, how can the study of the Gurudev's books help the bureaucrats cultivate inner ethics and leadership wisdom? Jagadav His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Jesus books like Celebrating Silence, An Intimate Note to the Sincere Seeker, and Wisdom for the New Millennium are timeless treasures. They teach how ethics arises not from fear of punishment but from awareness of consciousness. Bureaucrats and civil servants who engage with such literature gain clarity beyond procedural correctness. They learn the art of right intention. Each page encourages introspection, reminding leaders that service is sacred and governance is an opportunity for spiritual growth. Gurudev's words simplify complex human dilemmas: how to balance authority with humility, how to lead without ego, and how to take firm yet compassionate decisions. These teachings act as a moral compass for officials managing Odisha's rich socio-spiritual landscape. Many have found that reading these books before important meetings or reviews centers their mind and expands their perspective. Ultimately, such wisdom transforms bureaucrats into servant leaders, aligning their administrative duties with dharma, governance guided by ethics, empathy, and inner awareness. Now, what role does silence play in effective leadership as taught in Art of Living's advanced meditation programs? There, the silence is not emptiness, it's a fullness of awareness. His Holiness Gurudev Shishira Vishankarji's silence retreats teach participants to dive beyond thoughts and experience the source of creativity and calm. For leaders and administrators, silence is the foundation of wisdom. In silence, one can perceive nuances, anticipate challenges, and intuitively sense the right course of action. Odysseus' senior officials, constantly bombarded by noise, deadlines, and pressures, can rejuvenate through periodic silence programs. These few days of inward journey recalibrate their nervous system and restore emotional balance. Silence allows them to respond with maturity instead of reacting impulsively. It nurtures patience and deep listening. Quality is vital for resolving conflicts and making policy decisions. When such leaders return to work after a silence retreat, their presence itself becomes calming, their words carry conviction, and their judgment becomes sharper. Silence transforms leadership from being power centric to purpose centric, echoing the ancient Indian vision of a Rajarishi, a saintly ruler. Now, how can Odysseus' officers balance spiritual practice with their demanding schedules? Jayadev, balancing spirituality and public duty may seem challenging, but Gurudev's guidance make it beautifully simple. He says, you don't need to go to the Himalayas to meditate. You can be peaceful amidst chaos. Officers can start with short daily practices, a few rounds of pranayama, 20 minutes of sudarshan kriya, and 10 minutes of silent sitting. Even 5 minutes of conscious breathing between meetings resets the nervous system. Regular practice ensures sustained energy, clarity, and calm. Institutions can also schedule weekly group Kriya sessions, which help in maintaining consistency and motivation. For those traveling frequently, guided meditations from the Art of Living app are an easy support. The essence is continuity, not duration. Over time, spirituality stops being a separate activity and becomes a natural part of life. Like breathing, such integrated living enables officers to handle high pressure governance tasks with grace, ensuring that decisions stem from stability rather than stress. Now, what impact can ethical governance based on dharmic principles have on Odisha's development? Jagadish, when governance is guided by Dharma, development becomes sustainable, inclusive, and compassionate. Dharmic governance is not about religion, it's about righteousness. Decisions aligned with truth and fairness. Odisha, home to the divine Lord Jagannath, has a heritage deeply rooted in the principle of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world as one family. If policies are inspired by this consciousness, corruption diminishes and transparency increases. Officials who live by dharmic principles treat their positions as platforms for service, not privilege. Such leadership automatically inspires public trust. The Vedic Dhammasamsthan emphasizes that dharma begins in the mind. When one's thoughts, words, and actions are aligned, combined with the Art of Living's stress relief techniques, the dharmic values become effortless expressions of inner balance. When ethics, empathy, and efficiency unite, Odysseus' development won't merely be measured by GDP, but by happiness, harmony, and the moral integrity of its people. How can the ancient Vedic rituals coexist with modern governance without conflict? Jagadish, the misconception that spirituality and governance are separate is a colonial hangover in India's civilizational ethos. The Vedic rituals and administration have always coexisted in ancient times. Kings sought guidance from rishis before making major decisions. Today, the Vedic Dhammasamsthan continues this tradition in a contemporary way. Rituals like Agnihotra or Gayatri Yagyas and Homas don't interfere with governance. They energize it by purifying the atmosphere and invoking clarity in collective consciousness. When performed with sincerity, these rituals enhance focus and ethical grounding. Modern science now validates how such Vedic fire ceremonies reduce air pollutants and boost pranic energy. For Odysseus' administrators, incorporating these sacred acts in official events reaffirms the state's spiritual heritage while strengthening the moral fiber. It's not about ritualism, it's about resonance, aligning the vibration of governance with the sacred vibration of the land. This balance of science and spirituality defines the ideal future of ethical administration. Now, how can the teachings of His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankarji and the Vedas guide disaster management and resilience in Odisha? The Odisha often faces natural calamities like cyclones and floods, Beyond technology and logistics, resilience requires mental strength and collective faith. His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar teaches that a strong mind can overcome any challenge. Art of living techniques help officials and citizens alike remain composed, think clearly, and act compassionately during crisis. The Vedic Vimsastan adds the spiritual dimension, invoking divine protection through mantras, yagyas, and prayers that fortify the collective spirit. Together, they cultivate a culture of calm amidst chaos. When disaster strikes, such emotionally balanced officials make faster, fairer decisions and inspire confidence among citizens. Training programs can include modules on emotional resilience, yogic breathing for anxiety, and community seva to aid recovery. Odisha's administrative framework, empowered by spiritual strength, can become a global model for humane and holistic disaster response, one that heals not only physical damage but also the psychological and moral wounds of the community. Now, how can the Sri Sri University in Odisha serve as a center for transformation for government officials? Jayodhya Sri University, located near Cuttack, is not merely an educational institution, it's a confluence of modern knowledge and ancient wisdom. For Odisha's administrators, it offers an ideal environment for leadership, retreats, ethics and governance workshops, and meditation based capacity building programs. Courses like Mind Management for Leaders and Ethics in Administration, inspired by Gurudev's vision, equip officials with tools to manage stress, improve communication, and enhance their creativity. The serene campus overlooking the Mahanadi River naturally induces tranquility and reflection. Joint collaborations between the state government, the Art of Living Foundation, and the Vedic System can establish continuous learning hubs focusing on emotional intelligence, yoga based governance, and Vedic management principles. When administrators train in such an environment, they return to their roles rejuvenated and inspired to serve selflessly. Sri Sri University thus becomes a living laboratory where ancient wisdom meets administrative excellence for building a truly developed and ethical Odisha. Now, what is His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar Ji's ultimate message for all government officials of Odisha? Jagadev Gurudev's message is to every leader is simple yet profound. Serve with a smile. Leadership is not about control, it's about care. For Odisha's officials who shoulder the responsibility of a state rich in culture and devotion, this message carries the immense power. He often says, when the heart is pure and the mind is calm, right action happens naturally through meditation, pranayama, sudarshan kriya, and selfless seva. Officials can rediscover the joy of serving people without stress or ego. Gurudev envisions a model of governance where compassion is the foundation, ethics is the framework, and spirituality is the guiding light. With Jagannath's grace, the Sri Sri University's knowledge and art of living techniques, and the Vedic Dhamma's rituals, and the wisdom of His Holiness Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji, Odisha can become a beacon of dharmic leadership for India and the world. His call is to build a developed Odisha rooted in inner development, for when hearts are enlightened, governance automatically becomes divine. Jagadev.